We've talked a lot about the Jake Retzlaff situation, but let's go locked on Big 12. Not the BYU focus, everybody else. Did this just kill a contender? This is a locked on Big 12, locked on Baylor crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody, live from beautiful Lake Tahoe, where the lake meets the mountains. This is Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thanks for making this show your first listen every single day. That is Cam Stewart, who is co-hosting, because he told me he also really likes Lake Tahoe. I have been stunned. I hate that I'm indoors right now recording this podcast with you, of all people.
It's gorgeous, man. On the Corleone family compound.
And the mountains that have snow on them still. It's a beautiful thing. This storyline with BYU, Jake Retzlaff, the QB position, the last week has blown up. It's the biggest story in the Big 12, the biggest story of the offseason, because a title contender will likely lose its QB. How does that help the rest of the league? From a football-only standpoint, how does that help other schools that want to be contenders? We'll start there. Then the government might intervene and shut down the SEC and Big Ten due to monopoly laws. And finally, the SEC and the Big Ten leaving the NCAA. And I think the Big 12 eventually following them is a real thing. We're getting closer. They're now using verbiage through the league itself to say, hey, this is possible. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. First, Jake Retzlaff, there is an alleged victim who has accused him of sexual assault. It is now a civil court case. He'll either be held liable or he'll be exonerated. We won't know, according to Jake Hatch, until 2026. Middle of 2020, late 2020. We won't know for a long time what happens. And because of that, there is just no way he plays quarterback for BYU this fall. Now, Hatch said it. He was a 10 for 21 against Colorado in that bowl game, right? He had a couple stinkers and BYU still won. But if you're Baylor, who considers itself a contender with Sawyer Robertson, or Iowa State, or Kansas State, or Arizona State, or the teams at the top, I think this helps open the door from a football standpoint to make you feel better about your odds when facing the BYU Cougars.
I mean, it has to. And look, I mean, you look back at that BYU season last year, and it is a good point, an interesting point by Hatch, right? Of we talked it up even on our shows last year of like, Retzlaff is not the best statistical quarterback this league has to offer, and it only got better from last year to this year, even subtracting Shedeur Sanders from that. This just got even deeper as a quarterback conference, and he's not in the top tier. But then again, BYU was winning games with their defense. They were winning one-score games, and Drake, you know how important that is to have a good, seasoned quarterback in those one-score games. Those usually come down to who makes less mistakes. And Jake Retzlaff did not make a lot of mistakes. And that is one part of it. The other part is you got to take into account when this is happening. We are late May here. We are a month removed from spring football. Like we're not, and we're another 2.5 months, almost 2 months away from playing more football. Like you are in this dead period where you're worried about recruits, and all of a sudden BYU does not have a starting quarterback. And in this conference, with as open as it is year in, year out, and talking about the tiers of teams rather than one or two teams that can win the conference, like the SEC or the Big Ten, when in the Big 12 we tier these things, I think this has to knock BYU out of the top tier of contenders.
If we put this in a vacuum, because it's a layered, tough situation, but I want to put it into a vacuum of pull the storylines out of it and just consider top contender loses their quarterback to the transfer portal. In terms of Avery Johnson says, hey, I'm going to pack it up. I'm done at Kansas State. I'm transferring. The other Big 12 schools lick their chops and say, good, this is going to help us have a shot at winning the Big 12 conference. Let's say in this vacuum, we are, in essence, just having a contender lose a top quarterback. Does Dave Aranda lick his chops? Does Chris Kleiman show up to the office a little more giddy that, hey, now, circumstances aside, this is one less domino we feel like we're really worried about?
I think they have to, right? Like that's something that I've been thinking about as a Baylor fan. Obviously not the only part of this situation that I'm thinking about, but like, hey,
this is we take circumstance. If you talk, we're on a football podcast, talk just from the standpoint of a star player is out.
Yeah, and that is one more contender taken out of these things. And the other thing too, Drake, in this transfer portal era, there's a lot of question marks for opposing coaches going into the season than there were in years past, right? For the most part, you knew what that team was, that program was coming in. But now in the portal era, look at Colorado and how well Dion did with it year 2. You can turn your roster around and all of a sudden you're a brand new team. And if you're playing them in September, that's tougher to scheme against. And these schools in the Big 12 have got to be thinking like that is one more kind of wrench thrown into what we thought BYU was going to be. But looking across the conference, that's half the teams, man. You get thrown into a wrench thrown a wrench into what Houston is going to be because they bring in a new quarterback. And so absolutely, I think a lot of these teams are licking their chops, whether for right or for wrong, whether BYU is going to be a lesser team than they were last year. But you also got to take into account too, again, from a football standpoint, the kind of locker room aspect of all this, right? These players are locked in. They can't go anywhere. And this can be a really beneficial thing in terms of a rallying point, again, from the football standpoint, or it could be hugely detrimental. You could have a locker room full of guys who are saying, our season's gone up in smoke before it's even started, and here we are. We still have to be here. We have to continue to and try and act like we're going to be the same team that we were with Jake Retzlaff as our quarterback, and that can take a huge toll on them. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of teams in this league, maybe even the ones that we aren't thinking of as championship contenders that are like, that's one less thing to worry about when it comes to these contenders in the Big 12 conference.
Is BYU out of the contender race?
I think so. It's too much, even with a kind of middle of the road quarterback in this conference. It just feels like a lot to lose a guy with a lot of starts under his belt, over a year of experience and got better and better and better. To lose him at this point of the offseason, I think that's too much. I would put them in that second tier because of how good the rest of their team is, but not in the top tier of contending teams anymore.
Coming up, the government can shut down the SEC and the Big Ten. Maybe not exactly, but something close to that. This is Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Why? Because Monarch Money is where I go as the 24-year-old who looks at his bank account and says, my money's gone. It's very easy to lose track for anybody of your personal finances. That's where Monarch Money, your own CFO, comes in. Complete financial command center. You stop managing your money. You start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I'm spending on stupid little stuff that I shouldn't be spending my money on. And now, with accountability, I budget smarter and save. Set goals with your partner and share your personal accounts as well. It's never been easier. Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year at Monarch Money. Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. The SEC and the Big Ten could be in more trouble than expected. We've talked about how this new college sports commission deal, the committee has been appointed, and Nick Saban's there, and Cody is there from Texas Tech, and we're just all trying to figure out how to. But what about from the government standpoint, where the SEC and the Big Ten have been flexing their weight so much, throwing it around, and overstepping in many ways the U.S. government and the way they like to rule? In Tennessee, where they said, hey, in essence, I'm a judge, I'm the governor, we're all going to come together and say the law says this. Now the SEC tries to undermine that by telling its schools, if you sue this new commission we've made, we'll kick you out of our conference, even if we're doing things that break the Sherman Antitrust Act. Even if we break the law with our student athletes, you can't sue us or we'll kick you out of the league. It feels like, and there's been some really good reporting from Matt Brown on Twitter, who says that this is something the SEC and Big Ten should be worried about. And CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd, has been all over this as well. The government knows what's going on. They're seeing how they're being undermined, and this could put a stop to the stalwart the SEC and Big Ten have become in college football.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I hate when government gets involved in sports. We see it happen every so often.
You know, it's like
well, yeah. Let me get to it. Let me get to it because remember steroids in baseball? It became a congressional hearing, and it's like, what are we doing? And then this great myth of college sports, which has gone completely by the wayside, which does kind of lead us into this, is you remember like all the time, like back 12 years ago when we started doing a little bit of conference expansion. Colorado, Nebraska left the Big 12, and A&M left the Big 12.
Missouri,
who could forget Missouri? And there was all these talks,
left the Mountain West Conference. Sorry,
there were all these talks of like who was going to be next and what the realignment was going to be, and UT was trying to get out. And then there was always people saying, well, UT can't go anywhere unless A&M goes with them. Oklahoma can't go anywhere unless Oklahoma State goes with it. It's going to be blocked. North Carolina State. They got to go together. Oregon and Oregon State. That turned out to be a total lie. We see it now more and more. And so, yes, this is the good time when the government becomes involved, because this now becomes kind of, in a way, a government issue. Right? A state government issue. The highest paid employees in these states are the flagship university college football coaches. And this is a massive, massive moneymaker for a lot of states, especially in the South, that this college football revenue. And if you look at the Big Ten, for example, not in the South, so I'll take them out of it, does it really help the state of Michigan that USC and UCLA are in the conference? Like, oh, you should be getting more tourism from California, but you're not. Like, you're not getting that. And what you would take away is someone from, a game against Minnesota, where you would have a lot of people coming in, or Wisconsin, a lot of people coming in. It's the same way, in the SEC. What if A&M is playing Florida? Yeah, you're gonna get some people in there, but for years you missed out on the UT people coming in, or the Oklahoma people coming in that are very prevalent in that actual space where they're located, not like Florida or South Carolina. So yeah, this becomes a government thing, kind of in a backward way, but in a really prevalent way. So is the government finally going to save us, Drake?
I think they might. And happen? Cody Campbell says, this is from Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, Campbell has criticized the two conferences' stranglehold on amateur athletics and their efforts in Washington, D.C. Campbell's been public, saying, hey, the SEC and the Big Ten want to get in bed with the U.S. government, and the government, based on what is written in the whole ass Constitution, can't do this thing. Pardon my language, but it's crazy that this guy is being so bold as to say, wait a second, they're asking us to just skirt around the law. These acts that we placed into government, we can't do that. The direct quote from Campbell, this is crazy. He says, the NCAA is broken, which, yes, we'll get there. But handing the keys to a few fat cats is worse. America thrives on competition, not cozy cartels blessed by D.C. That's a man that I want representing my conference.
That is what I'm talking about here. To put this into perspective, this would be like if the Locked On Podcast Network was failing, which it's not. It's as good as it's ever been. And it was failing, and they were like, you know what? Just give Drake the keys. Just let Drake do whatever. That would be bad for America, okay? And we can't have that. And I think there is kind of some pathos with this of like, this is the American game. College football is not played at this level anywhere else. It's really only played at any level in Canada, right? Like, it's not, this is a uniquely American thing, and it is supposed to be for a lot of states and schools that would have normally been forgotten about. This was not Harvard and Yale in the 1890s. Like, we kind of squashed that a long time ago. So I loved seeing that reporting. Like, it got me so fired up. Like, you can't go. You've already gone against a ton of American ideals in this just insane realignment. But now what we do with changing the college football playoff and breaking away from the NCAA and just crushing the little guys, that is literally going against the law. And there's no cooler thing than the Constitution. Let me tell you, kids.
Yesterday was Memorial Day, so it only feels right that today we would wax poetic about those who served our country and of all of the great, wonderful things that they've given us. And now, like, that you somehow fought and the SEC will reap the benefits of our freedom. This what you gave us was you in a roundabout way have helped save college football from the powers that be. And I'm glad that Cody Campbell has this sort of at least speaking power. I don't know if anything will eventually come of this, but to raise flags and say, hey, DC, you can't do this. The SEC, the Big Ten, you can't do this. And he's the co-commissioner, co-president thing of random commission. I still don't exactly know what the CSC is or does, but it seems like everyone expects them to become the police of college football, and he is the head of that, and now he's got at least a voice for the Big 12.
Which is what we need out there more than the guys like us. I'm now fascinated by it, as we've talked about this on and off air today. But like, is the government going to win here? Like, is this going to be a stall? Do you think is this going to be like a college football filibuster?
And Big Ten, have they combined forces to become bigger than the United States government? Because
they might already be more powerful than the government.
Like, they've got the King of Jordan on the phone right now. He's like, your biggest stadium, we'll play there.
I have gotten full-size toothpaste bottles toothpaste tubes through TSA, which is a federal government thing, and you're not supposed to have full-size toothpaste tubes.
Blacklist.
I think the Big Ten and the SEC can stop me from doing that. I just think they have more power.
A buddy of mine one time brought me my favorite sour in the world. It's a 16-ounce can. I'm drinking. This is just an energy drink, but 16-ounce can from Alaska, from Anchorage, Alaska. It is carry-on.
Which is basically Russia.
It's 16-ounce can of Alaska Brewing Company, 49th State Brewing Company, red cider, Pabs, whatever, sour, whatever it was, Tiger's Blood sour. He was like, yeah, it was just my carry-on. You're what? Yeah, I just brought up my carry-on. I just didn't. You can't. That's like 4 times the amount of liquid you're supposed to legally have. It's like, I don't know, man. Do you want it or not? Like, yeah, I thank you. That's how strong the government is today. They can't even deal with the SEC and Big Ten.
This is how they can. This can be their comeback right here. Those comeback for the government, baby.
Those 2 leagues are just going to leave the NCAA. I think we've laid the groundwork for that. Locked on Big 12. Locked on Baylor. Imminent, I think, is the right word. The SEC and the Big Ten leaving the NCAA and the Big 12 following suit. I don't think this will be something that just involves the Power 2. Michael Borky tweeted this out. It's a screenshot from a Ross Dellinger report. It says, in Destin this week, SEC administrators are expected to examine the governance proposal and the possibility of separating football completely out from under the NCAA. We've heard the rumors before that, they're unhappy with the NCAA. But now we're going to put it into practice. We're going to have a meeting about, hey, guys, what if we just strip football away from the NCAA, do our own thing with this College Sports Commission, and go our own way? Because if the SEC is bigger than the U.S. government, they're certainly bigger than the NCAA. And I think we are finally laying the groundwork to say, hey, you're just a clerical governing body of what we do. We don't necessarily need that anymore because you're really just getting sued and costing us money. We're steps away from the NCAA becoming null and void.
And there is good and bad to this, I think, for the Big 12 fan, because like we're all annoyed by the NCAA. I mean, I know for
none of us
doing
like
my show the last few weeks.
No, we don't.
No,
like
that's
them.
the thing. You've almost made us root for them the last couple of years because we just don't like the Big Ten and the SEC more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I've talked about on my show, the whole Ashton Hawkins ineligibility thing, and there's a couple of guys who have gotten this unclear JUCO waiver, and it's just another in a long line of just crap that the NCAA tries to pull. And so there is good and bad to this because the SEC and the Big Ten are doing this so that they can be just them too. But to your point, it's not going to work. You are going to need to have the Big 12 and ACC schools in there, no matter what that looks like. Ask the U.S. government, actually, if you just completely ignore Middle America, what will happen? So I think they will need to get those schools in here. But the more you think about it, because I didn't really think about this until the last few months. I just thought of the NCAA as kind of the all powerful, like if you weren't in the NCAA, what were you in? But the more you think about it, the more you're just like, we don't need this. We don't need this. The American League and the National League in baseball used to have separate presidents. And then they were just like, actually, you know what? we could just be under one and be okay. Like, that is kind of what's going on here. It's like, we don't have to deal with your crap anymore. We will make the actual rules ourselves, rather than the NCAA being this autonomous ruling body that they have been for 120 years now. I think that's overall going to be a good thing. I just don't like that this is how it kind of has to be done. That the Big Ten and the SEC think we are so below them that they need to go through that and make this their own, kind of entire governing body.
There's like a savior complex to it for the SEC and Big Ten. Like, look at us, what we've done for you, smaller leagues.
And they will always hold that over us if we get in the CSC or whatever it is. Like, that's always going to be like, well, what would you be doing if it wasn't for us knocking out the NCAA and throwing you this life preserver? It's like, well, you were going to have to do that anyway. But that's how they're going to act. That's how Sankey and Petiti and the powers that be in those conferences are going to act.
Yes, there is. There were a lot of people who didn't like Benito Mussolini. A lot of people really didn't like Mussolini.
Yeah, and I'm going to include myself in that, for the record, by the way. And retroactively,
Mussolini is killed, and it's like, hey, we were all kind of someone was going to do it at some point. Like, yeah, credit to you for making it happen, but like, doesn't mean you're better than any of us. You don't get to just hold it over our head. Oh, like, we killed Benito Mussolini, which was his own countryman in the end.
Yeah.
But this is, well, the SEC are they not the NCAA's own countrymen? Are they not?
There's a lot of war parallels you can use for this, by the way. That's actually a good example. There's a lot you can use. It's like, you know what? You got rid of the Viet Cong here, but like, we don't need you running our country. We just needed a little muscle. We needed a little influence to help us, but you don't need to be running. Look at the Soviet Union after the big one, huh?
Like, thank you, militia of Italy, for doing this for us. This is a great favor. We're not going to give you the keys to NATO. You don't get to control the world now. And we're like, yes, thank you. But no, you can't be the governing body.
You guys can go back and we will handle the rest. We'll handle the rest. We'll do the cleanup and everything.
We'll be on a committee together. We're friends, but we're equals in this.
France, you're welcome again. Now you guys go on your merry way.
They're like the Southland Conference or the A10 or one of those. You're just like, you have 10 new schools and 0 remaining members.
How are you not making this work?
Like,
how are you getting beat again? Maybe it's the ACC. Maybe it's the ACC.
Yeah, it might be.
How are you messing this up?
How did Kennesaw State get here? When did this happen? I thought we can't
even hold on to Florida State. Like, come on, man.
NCAA, as Scotty B would say, stands for nerds coming after America. That's what it feels like here. Ooh. And so
is the intern making a graphic as we speak?
That one's going to be
Canva
tweeted out. The intern was on top of the NCAA baseball selection show this weekend, which I was like, shout out, because I'm not going to
Dude, one of the broadcasters for one of the Baylor games last week said, man, there's nothing like college baseball selection Sunday. And I was like, really?
So many things.
Nothing? There's nothing like it? First off, it's just like the basketball one. It's exactly like it, and the softball one, and the college football playoff one. But it's like, really? There's just nothing like it, because I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. Even if my team had a shot at it, I'm not watching it. I will find it out later.
They're
like the look on those kids' faces. I'm like, yeah, I know that because the other sports do it.
Right.
There is something like it.
The look on Cooper Flagg's face, who's going to be a star in the NBA, not guys are like, didn't that guy play for Fullerton last year, and now he plays for St. Mary's? Good to see him. Yeah,
I found out recently that Justin Verlander, Hall of Famer, one of the great pitchers of this generation, maybe the last guy to win 300 games when it's all said and done. Yeah. Did you know he went to Old Dominion University?
I did not know that.
Did you know he went to Christian Rao's alma mater, Old Dominion University?
Christian Rao, notable Kansas
That's
State
just
fan.
a rumor, by the way. That's a bloody rumor that I wanted to spread out there. That's a joke, by the way. I had no idea that Justin Verlander went there. I'm sorry. I wish college baseball was bigger. I wish I cared more about it, but there are things like it.
There's nothing like Shark Tank on a Sunday night. You're like, I have work tomorrow, but Shark Tank's on. At least I'm not that idiot up there trying to sell a topsy-turvy thing that doesn't spill your food while you're walking. That's great.
Do you think Shark Tank should have hired Portnoy to replace Cuban?
Oh, that would have been really like one of these things does not belong here.
Which is great. I think that's great for TV.
Like you put a monkey in the room of professionals and you're just like, what's the monkey doing here? You're like, I don't know. We enjoy it.
Do you just throw money out? Like I'm in. You could put Theo Vaughn in that same chair and you'd be like, again, why is the monkey here? And you're like, do you hate it? I can't look away. Pat McAfee on College Game Day. It's the same thing. That would be really good, man.
McAfee doesn't necessarily belong.
I would like the Rizzler to spend Mr. Beast's money on Shark Tank. How about that?
If your great-great-grandfather, dad, I assume, heard you say that sentence.
I think so.
Ooh,
yep.
That's a really...
Yeah.
We are too far gone. There's nothing we can do now.
He'd also ask, what are you doing for a job? How are you making money?
Oh, your girlfriend wears the pants?
Your girlfriend's going to be a doctor? What?
And you host NHL game night. So
big one.
One and the same. It's Cameron Stewart. Find him on NHL game night, talking all things Panthers, Edmonton Oilers. I know his Locked On Baylor fans love seeing him over there. They follow him religiously to NHL game night. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover with Baylor and Dose Grande.